"Ma'am, remove the jacket, please." Judge Harold Mercer's voice carried across Courtroom 3, firm enough to silence every whisper. 41-year-old Dana Cole stood beside her attorney, Maya Bennett, wearing a faded Navy flight jacket over a plain black dress. The jacket was clean and respectful, but one worn patch above her heart caught the judge's attention. "Raven 6, Your Honor," Donna said quietly. "There is no posted rule against it." Mercer glanced at the crowded gallery and the cameras outside the courtroom doors. "This court expects formal decorum. We are not here to make personal statements." Donna's fingers moved toward the zipper, trembling when they touched the patch. The jacket had belonged to Elena Ruiz, her former crew chief, and Dana had worn it because that day marked the anniversary of Elena's death. A courthouse sign near the entrance announced a Veterans Treatment Court ceremony scheduled in the adjoining chamber, which explained why several retired service members were seated in the back row. Among them was Rear Admiral Thomas Keene, a former Navy SEAL commander, waiting to deliver the ceremony's keynote address. He had barely looked up until he heard the judge mention the jacket. Then he saw the patch. Raven 6. His expression changed instantly. He leaned toward the bailiff and whispered, "Please ask that woman where she got that Callsign." Donna slowly removed the jacket and folded it beside her chair. Unaware that someone in the gallery had just recognized the name, she had spent 12 years trying to leave behind. 11 months earlier, Donna had served as chief pilot for Coastal Response Aviation, a private contractor operating emergency helicopters for hospitals and state agencies across Virginia. She was respected for being calm, exact, and unwilling to treat safety rules as suggestions. Regional Director Martin Voss saw things differently. At 52, Martin was polished, ambitious, and under intense pressure to protect a major hospital contract. When a storm damaged one of the company's primary helicopters, he ordered Dana to fly a replacement aircraft on a nighttime medical transfer. Dana reviewed the maintenance log and found an unresolved tail rotor vibration warning. "The inspection is incomplete," she said. "This aircraft stays grounded until maintenance clears it." Martin lowered his voice. "The patient needs transport, and the client is already threatening penalties." Dana did not raise hers. "Then call another operator. I will not gamble with a crew and a patient." Another company completed the transfer safely, but Coastal Response lost a performance bonus. 2 days later, Martin removed Dana from flight duty and instructed Human Resources to begin a disciplinary case for insubordination. Dana saved the original maintenance entry, copied several emails, and wrote a detailed timeline before her system access was revoked. 3 weeks later, she was fired for refusing what the company called a lawful assignment. Martin believed the official report would make the decision look reasonable. He did not know that junior mechanic Lucas Grant had preserved a copy of the maintenance database, or that Dana's old. Callsign would eventually bring the one man who remembered her judgment under fire into the same. Courtroom. Dana filed a wrongful termination and retaliation lawsuit, claiming she had been punished for refusing an unsafe flight. Coastal Response responded by portraying her as difficult, overly cautious, and unable to adapt to civilian management after military service. Parts of that narrative reached local news outlets. Former co-workers stopped returning her calls, and Dana sold her car to cover expenses while teaching weekend aviation classes at a community college. The flight jacket became the last piece of her former life she still wore. Elena Ruiz had once told her, "Never let pressure make the decision for you," and Dana carried those words into court. After Judge Mercer asked her to remove the jacket, Maya objected. "Your Honor, opposing counsel has made my client's military background part of its defense. The jacket is not disruptive." Mercer paused, then replied more carefully, "My ruling concerns decorum, not her service. Proceed." 3 spectators recorded the exchange from different angles: a journalism student, a retired nurse, and a veteran waiting for the ceremony next door. Martin watched from the defense table, his expression controlled but satisfied. During the recess, the bailiff approached Dana. "The gentleman in the back row would like to know whether Raven 6 was your operational Callsign." Dana's face tightened. "Who is asking?" The bailiff nodded toward Admiral Keene. Dana recognized him at once, though his hair was now silver. Martin followed her gaze and saw the recognition pass between them. For the first time that morning, he looked uncertain. When the trial resumed, Martin testified that Dana had refused a safe aircraft because she resented civilian authority. He called the tail rotor warning a minor administrative issue that had already been addressed. Maya displayed the maintenance entry Dana had saved. It showed inspection required before flight, less than an hour before the scheduled transfer. Martin answered smoothly. That note was preliminary. The aircraft was airworthy. Maya then called Lucas Grant, the 26-year-old mechanic who had inspected the helicopter. Lucas entered the witness box with his shoulders tight and his eyes lowered. He admitted finding abnormal vibration and recommending a full tail rotor check. Coastal Response's attorney asked whether Lucas himself had formally grounded the aircraft. He hesitated. Martin stared at him from the defense table. "No," Lucas said. "My supervisor closed the item." Maya showed him Dana's screenshot. "Is that your original entry?" Lucas swallowed. "Yes. Was it changed later?" "Yes." "Who authorized the change?" The company attorney objected, arguing that Lucas lacked personal knowledge of the user who made the edit. Judge Mercer sustained the objection and instructed Maya to establish a proper foundation. Maya requested the full electronic audit trail. Coastal Response claimed the archive was unavailable after a software migration. From the gallery, Admiral Keene watched Lucas struggle between fear and conscience. During the next recess, he quietly told the veteran beside him, Raven 6 once entered weather that turned another aircraft back. If she grounded that helicopter, there was a reason. But the court still needed proof. And without the missing audit trail, Martin's version could survive. During lunch, the journalism student and 2 other spectators offered Maya the recordings of the courtroom exchange. The videos did not prove retaliation, but they documented how quickly Dana had been judged before her evidence was heard. Lucas then asked to speak privately. He handed Maya a flash drive. "I exported the database before they locked me out," he said. "I was afraid they would erase it." The file showed that Lucas's warning had been changed from inspection required before flight to monitor during next scheduled service. The edit was made with Martin. Voss's credentials 14 minutes after Dana refused the mission. Another internal record showed that management discussed building a termination case before Human Resources interviewed Dana. Maya immediately disclosed the files to the court and defense counsel. Coastal Response challenged their authenticity, so Judge Mercer ordered an independent forensic review rather than admitting them immediately. Dana thanked Lucas. He looked ashamed. "You protected all of us. I should have spoken before now." Dana answered softly. "Fear explains silence. It does not have to own what you do next." Admiral Keene then approached with the bailiff's permission. "Were you Raven 6 during Operation Northern Lantern?" he asked. Dana's eyes filled with recognition. "Yes, sir." Keene exhaled slowly. "My team was stranded on that mountain." Dana glanced at the folded jacket. "My crew brought you home." Judge Mercer returned and found them speaking. Keene faced him calmly. "Your Honor, her Callsign matters to her professional history. But it should not decide this case. The evidence must do that." Judge Mercer moved the discussion into chambers with both legal teams present. Admiral Keene explained that he was attending the Veterans Court ceremony next door and had entered Courtroom 3 after hearing raised voices. He confirmed that Raven 6 had been Dana's Callsign during a joint rescue operation 12 years earlier. She had flown through severe weather to extract his SEAL team after another aircraft turned back. Keene did not exaggerate her role. Her service does not prove her employer violated the law, he said. It does show why she takes unresolved aircraft warnings seriously. Mercer looked toward Dana. Why was none of this included in your initial filing? Dana answered, because my military record should not be required for this court to listen respectfully. The judge remained silent for several seconds. Then he authorized an independent digital forensics specialist to examine Lucas's files and ordered Coastal Response to preserve every remaining record. The specialist confirmed that the database structure, timestamps, and internal identifiers matched Coastal Response's system. Deleted emails were recovered. In one, Martin wrote to Human Resources, "If Dana refuses tonight, begin documenting insubordination. We cannot let one pilot control contract performance." Another instructed a maintenance supervisor to normalize the wording of the defect report. Mercer warned the company that altering or withholding records could lead to sanctions and referral for further investigation. When Dana returned to the courtroom, she picked up her jacket. Mercer noticed the patch, but said nothing. The tone of the case had changed, yet one central question remained. Had Dana prevented a real danger, or had she simply won an argument about procedure? Not an independent aviation engineer answered that question. After reviewing the original vibration readings, maintenance manual, repair history, and the component later removed from the aircraft, she testified that the helicopter should not have flown that night. Mechanics eventually discovered a developing crack in a tail rotor component. It had not yet failed, but continued operation could have increased the risk of losing directional control. Captain Cole's decision was consistent with accepted safety practice, the engineer said. The decisive evidence did not come from Dana's jacket or Admiral Keene's memories. It came from technical records and physical inspection. Still, Coastal Response's attorney suggested that Dana's military experience had made her excessively fearful of risk. Admiral Keene was allowed to give limited testimony about her decision-making under pressure. Raven 6 was not respected because she rescued my team, he said. She rescued my team because she already understood risk, procedure, and responsibility. He looked toward Dana's folded jacket. But she deserved dignity in this courtroom before anyone knew that Callsign. Judge Mercer lowered his eyes. Martin stared at the recovered emails while Lucas sat motionless behind Maya. Dana did not smile. The truth had arrived, but it could not restore the year she had spent unemployed and publicly doubted. Mercer ruled that the record contained substantial evidence supporting Dana's retaliation claim and evidence manipulation allegations. Coastal Response requested settlement discussions before the case proceeded to a jury. Maya leaned toward Dana and whispered, "You have leverage now." Dana looked at Martin, then at Lucas. "I don't want revenge," she said. "I want the next pilot to be able to say no without losing everything." Settlement negotiations lasted 3 weeks. Dana rejected an offer that required silence and allowed Coastal Response to deny wrongdoing. She rejected another that compensated her but changed nothing. The final agreement restored her professional record, covered lost wages and legal expenses, and required an independent safety compliance monitor. The company adopted formal protection for pilots and mechanics who refused assignments because of documented safety concerns. It also reported the altered maintenance records to the appropriate aviation authorities. Martin was placed on administrative leave and later terminated after the company's board reviewed the emails, audit logs, and witness statements. 2 managers who ignored Lucas's concerns received formal discipline and lost supervisory authority. Judge Mercer sanctioned coastal response for discovery failures. Then he addressed Dana in open court. "My comments about your jacket were unnecessary," he said. "Courtroom authority does not excuse disrespect. I apologize." Dana accepted the apology without pretending it erased the humiliation. Lucas entered a whistleblower protection agreement and later joined an independent aviation safety organization. Admiral Keene declined interviews. When reporters asked Dana whether a Navy SEAL Admiral had saved her case, she corrected them. "No, the maintenance record, the witnesses, and the truth saved the case." Admiral Keene only made people pause long enough to listen. Weeks later, the sound of a helicopter passing over her car made Dana pull to the roadside and grip the steering wheel until her breathing slowed. The judgment had corrected her record. It had not yet repaired what the fight had done to her. Dana began counseling after realizing that the courtroom humiliation had become tangled with grief for Elena and her father. She had survived dangerous missions, but losing her career had damaged something quieter: her trust that institutions would protect people who followed the rules. During one session, she said, "The operation that made me Raven 6 lasted 4 hours. Being treated like a liar lasted almost a year." Her therapist replied, "Public justice corrects records. Private healing takes longer." Dana slowly returned to aviation by teaching safety seminars to student pilots and emergency flight crews. She never opened with the rescue mission. Instead, she displayed Lucas's original maintenance entry and asked, "What would you do if the safest decision might cost you your career?" Lucas joined one session and spoke honestly about fear and delayed courage. Judge Mercer requested permission to attend another. He sat quietly in the back while Dana explained that authority becomes dangerous when it stops accepting questions. Afterward, he approached her. "I believed control created order," he said. "You showed me that listening does." Dana answered, "Then use that lesson for the next person who cannot prove they are important." That evening, she opened the garment bag containing the flight jacket. She touched the Raven 6 patch and placed Alana's photograph inside the pocket. For months, the jacket had felt like evidence she needed to defend. Now it felt like memory again. She finally understood that healing was not forgetting what happened. It was reaching the day when the truth no longer needed to be carried like armor. 1 year later, Dana returned to the courthouse as a volunteer advisor for a new legal support program, serving veterans and first responders. Courtroom 3 had changed in small but meaningful ways. Clear conduct rules were posted at the entrance, and judges completed updated training on respectful communication and trauma awareness. That morning, a former Army medic named Tasha Green stood nervously before Judge Mercer wearing a small unit pin on her coat. A court officer began to question it, then checked the written policy. The pin was permitted. Mercer noticed Tasha's trembling hands and lowered his voice. "Take your time, Miss Green. We will hear the facts." Dana watched from the gallery as Tasha exhaled. No one shouted. No one mocked her clothing. No one required her to prove she was extraordinary before receiving dignity. After the hearing, Admiral Keene joined Dana in the hallway for the program's anniversary ceremony. He glanced at her flight jacket. "Still wearing the Callsign?" Dana smiled. "Not to prove who I was. To remember who helped me become who I am." Judge Mercer called after her, "Captain Cole." Dana turned, and he corrected himself gently. "Dana, thank you." She nodded and continued down the hallway. Real justice had never been the moment a powerful admiral recognized. Raven 6. It was the day the next vulnerable person entered that courtroom and did not need an admiral at all. If this story moved you, comment "dignity" before recognition. Like, share, and subscribe to EchoStory for more stories about truth, courage, and accountability.